In this video, I'm going to be talking about bad VR and why it is infinitely worse than no VR. I've got two examples. One of them is Subnautica VR, and the other one is the Requisition VR demo that was released a little bit ago. Now, I don't have anything against these games. Actually, I love Subnautica, and Requisition VR looks like it will be something cool. But unfortunate reality, Subnautica's VR sucks, and Requisition VR's demo sucked. So I'm going to talk about it. I will start with Requisition VR. Basically, Requisition VR, it's a VR game. There's no flat screen version. And they released a demo for it a couple months ago or something. I don't remember. I played it, and I was quite excited for it because it looked cool. It looked a bit like Undead Development with the way you could combine weapons and stuff, which is cool because I love Undead Development. Very good game. So I was excited. Downloaded the demo, and it was fine. For the most part, it was fine, but the actual VR mechanics, like grabbing items, force grabbing items from far away, and stuff like that, were really janky and very annoying, which is not good. That doesn't bode well at all. And it kind of turned me off the game because, like, right, it's a demo and it's meant to drum up interest in the game. So I would think that they'd, make sure the game has its core mechanics down. And those really are core mechanics. That's like the most core mechanic is picking up items, right? Because those weren't good, like they were actually quite bad. It made me think, okay, maybe the game isn't actually going to be that great. I don't know. I'm still like tangentially looking at it, but I'm gonna wait until I see some other people review it before I buy it now. This isn't to say that the game's bad or that it's not going to be good, but just that the demo not being good made me less interested in it. And I suppose this example isn't super related to, like, it's not really specific to VR. Like, yeah, if a normal game had a shit demo, then I'd also be less inclined to buy it. I brought this up specifically because it was the things that only are relevant in VR that were pretty broken. Because for flat screen games, it's not really a huge issue if the controls are a bit janky. I've played many games with janky controls, and it's usually fine, honestly. You can get used to it if the rest of the game is good, and if the whole game's kind of mediocre, it's still pretty fun to play with friends. But in VR, it's pretty egregious if the controls are bad because it feels extremely annoying to do anything. So yeah, main point here is just don't release the demo if the VR parts of it aren't good, because the rest of it was fine, right? Like the animation was good, the levels are cool, the items looked interesting. But if the core VR parts aren't good, it's gonna turn off a lot of people because, I mean, it's how you interact with the game, and it's much more there and in your face than with flat screen games. Anyways, on to the second example, which is it's more relevant, I think. Subnautica VR. Now, fair warning, I have not played this in a year or so, but I do not believe they've updated it at all. If I'm wrong, who cares? Subnautica's VR port is just bad. Nothing much else I can say. It just is really bad. And I love Subnautica. It's such a good game. It's one of my favorite games. But the VR port is so terrible. It's not even funny. It's just like, why? Why would you do that? Horrible. From what I remember, your view isn't where your character is looking. You have to move that with the mouse or a game controller, which is horrible. And no, you cannot use the VR controllers, I don't think. Already, that alone just makes it impossible to play. Like, you cannot play VR when you're moving your head with a mouse. That doesn't work. You basically have to play it with a keyboard or a controller, and since I don't have a controller, I had to play with a keyboard. And that's horrible. Have you played a VR game sitting at your desk? It's not fun. It doesn't work. And in my cursory search to see if anything had changed, apparently on Gamepad, there's just some game breaking bugs. Like you just can't turn on the Cyclops, which is a late game submarine. It's like, okay. Oh yeah, and the menus, they didn't change those at all. You just still use the mouse to drag stuff around in VR. Played it and I was like, wow, this is fucking terrible. What the hell? It's a pretty egregious example, honestly. It's actually probably the worst VR port I've ever seen. It sounds like I'm being a bit mean to it, but I cannot describe it any other way. It's just really terrible. The main game's fine. Go play Subnautica if you haven't. I don't know. Anyways, a TLDR for this video. TLDW, I guess. VR based mechanics like movement, grabbing items, managing inventory stuff is really important. And if your VR game or VR port doesn't have those things nailed down, then you probably shouldn't release it yet, especially not a full release, and most likely not a demo, because even if everything else in the game is perfect, it's going to be really annoying to play, and it's going to turn a lot of people off. Alright, honestly, I think that video was a lot more coherent than my other ones. Thank God. I'm getting better at riffing without a script. Well, better. I don't. Anyways, I need an outro for this one. Okay, here, take this.
Here, you can say it.
This is Agent Maxwell signing out.